Hey there, everybody. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, or any of those things. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Perfect Album Sides. It's day 10, and I've got with me today Mr. Martin Popoff. Hello,
Yes.
Martin.
How you doing? Yeah,
I'm
glad to be aboard for this series.
yeah,
Excellent.
this has been kind of fun. I mean, there's been a lot of viewer interest in this so far. I know we're only a little over a week into the month, but I think there's enough out there that potentially, if I wanted to either do this 2 months in a row or pick up with it, a couple months down the road, I totally could, because there's a lot of albums that have perfect album sides. That's what it's all about. So today here, for those of you who maybe are just tuning in for the first time, this is a show we're doing throughout the month of May. Every morning, we're going to be giving you either myself solo or me with a guest, an album, a classic album that was originally released on vinyl, right, or even cassette. People have asked, well, what about the cassettes? Yeah, cassettes, where you have one side of that album is absolute perfection. Every song on there you would classify as a 5 out of 5 star classic track. Okay, so these could be from the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, as long as they were originally released in those formats, and you can actually see the side, right? They put things on albums, and they really gave some thought as to which songs are going to go on which side, which in the CD era wasn't always the case, right? So with all that being said, I'm going to have Martin kick us off with his choice for today.
Yeah, so I thought long and hard about this idea, and I was starting to disqualify so many albums by so many bands, big albums, because I couldn't, in my heart of hearts, go with it. And I eventually went with the very first thing I thought of when you brought this up. I went with AC/DC Highway to Hell, and the reason I went with this. So there's your sides. So we got side one there, which is the one I'm choosing. And we've got side two over there. There they are, both together. So, so the story with this is, I might have mentioned this before, but I remember getting this as a kid and getting it home. So what would I have been? 1979, right? So I would have been 16. So I remember getting this home, getting on the rotary dial phone and phoning my buddy Forrest Hoop and telling him about this album and using our rating system, right? So I started with side two, and I went, we've got an average good, a so-so, a lousy good, a so-so, and a so-so. So that was side two. So I purposely started with that, because then I went, okay, but hang on, Forrest, listen to side one here, because I'd already let him down, right? Like, oh, the new AC/DC, it's a little weak, kind of thing, right? Of course, I love all these songs now a ton, right? But this is actually my favorite AC/DC album by one of my favorite bands. So I went to side one and I said, we've got an average good, a really good, a really good, a really good, and a really good. So the idea here is that AC/DC basically never did really goods for us as kids, because they were just not ever heavy enough. A really good meant super OTT, massively super heavy, an amazing bombastic killer song. And AC/DC, we loved them, but they generally didn't do these really cool heavy songs. But it's funny, going with what you said here about perfectly balancing the side and stuff. I think AC/DC loaded up side one of this, and I went and compared to a bunch of other AC/DC albums, and it doesn't feel this way. But now Highway to Hell is totally one of my favorite AC/DC songs, so we could just throw that in the really good category. But Girls Got Rhythm, we always as kids, configured that riff as being a fairly heavy metal riff. Like, it's fairly riffy for AC/DC. They don't normally do things with that many notes in them, right? They're more of a block chordy band, right? But Walk All Over You and Touch Too Much, I usually call my two favorite AC/DC songs of all time. So that's pretty standard for me. And Beating Around the Bush is a rare, fast, riffy, OTT, almost over the top song. It's really quite heavy for them. It's like a little bit of a combination of their Black Dog by Zeppelin and their Riff Raff by AC/DC in a way, right? They didn't do that very often. A little bit of Let There Be Rock perhaps in there as well. Whole Lot of Rosie as well. It's got the stop start thing going. So basically, even with our overt heavy metal rating system, this had 4 out of 5 songs, which frankly, by 1979, with all the albums that came before, I'm looking at those 4 songs now, and those 4 songs are 4 of the heaviest songs AC/DC had done to date, barring a combination of the production and the heaviness of what's on Let There Be Rock. But these 4 songs are heavier than anything on Power Age, maybe except for Riff Raff. And then certainly heavier than anything on Dirty Deeds, TNT, High Voltage 1, High Voltage 2, whatever, the old stuff, right? That stuff was pretty vanilla compared to, what came after, kind of thing. So yeah, this and like I say, just to make sure I was right about this, I checked some other AC/DC albums, and there was nothing really close that had a side that just dominated over the other side. Like I say, on this, the second side of this, I think they've even said Love Hungry Man, Angus Says, is one of the worst songs we ever did, and it's got a bluesy thing on there. If You Want Blood was always a little poppy and melodic, but I love it now. Shot Down in Flames is, I think, the heaviest song on side 2, but yeah, side 1's just banger, 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 banger. So there you go. Highway to Hell.
I would agree. I think it's a great choice. Really good choice. Yeah, I mean, Touch Too Much. So good. So good. All right. My choice from 1987, released on the Atlantic label, is side A, or side 1, of Sabotage, Hall of the Mountain King.
Cool. Yeah.
Now, most people have heard me talk about this album numerous times over the years as one of my favorite albums of all time, and it actually is. And what's interesting enough here is that perhaps my favorite Sabotage song, which is the title track of the album, is not on side A. It kicks off basically Prelude to Madness, and Hall of the Mountain King kicks off side 2. However, side 2 I like a lot, but I don't think each and every song is a 5-star classic. It's close, right? It's close. I mean, this album to me was one of the best albums of 1987. Amazing how stacked 87 was. I was thinking about it last night because I was doing a show with Steve Keeler on the Rock Fantasy Files, and we were talking about Overkill and Testament, who both had ridiculously great albums that year. And I was thinking about like all the other great albums from 87. It's out of control. But anyway, back to Sabotage. So to me, this is their best album. This is the album, I think, where John Oliva is just hitting his peak, and his late brother Chris Oliva just destroying it on the guitars. Just one metal anthem after another. And side A kicks off at 24 Hours Ago. It's got this punishing riff. It's a great vocal from John. It's dark, it's doomy, it's dramatic. I mean, this whole album is like this kind of weird mix between like classic heavy metal, power metal, and doom metal. It's like all kind of rolled into one. Doesn't really sound like any of those three, but they're kind of like all woven together. Beyond the Doors of the Dark is fast, supercharging, really catchy. Legions, to me, is hauntingly just dramatic and really, really heavy. And then you got Strange Wings, which is probably the mellowest song on the album, but it still kicks ass. A great chorus. You got Ray Gillen, I think, singing backing vocals on this particular track, and just so good and so memorable. It's like one of those songs, like when I listen to this album, and I usually, when I listen to stuff, I listen to whole albums. I don't do the shuffle thing. When I hear Strange Wings, I generally hit repeat again and listen to it again. It's one of those songs, even though it's not my favorite song on the album, I love it to death. And it's the one that always warrants repeat listens. Whereas like Hall of the Mountain King is my favorite on side 2 or side B. But once I get through it, it's almost like I'm exhausted, right? Because it's like, it's 6 minutes long and it's so great. And then when it's done, it's like, oh, all right, that was great, but I'm ready for something else, right? So yeah, so for me, 24 Hours Ago, Beyond the Doors of the Dark, Legion, Strange Wings, one metal classic after another, each one so memorable, each one chock full of never-ending riffs and amazing vocals. And then you go to side 2, and that's pretty damn good too. But I'm going to stick with side A for my pick today. Hall of the Mountain King from Sabotage.
Yeah, that's a 10 out of 10 album pretty much, or
Oh,
9
yeah.
out of 10 or whatever. But and that one, the debut, Sirens and Power of the Night, are all 9s or 10s. They're just absolute classics. Yeah.
And I to me, I think Gutter Ballet is, if it's not a 10 out of 10, it's really close, because I think there's some songs on there that are spectacular. I love Streets and a lot of the other albums that came afterwards, but I don't think any of them quite stack up with the first 4 or 5 to me. But
and the Dungeons Are Calling EP, right?
Yeah, that's really good too. Heavy as all hell, right? Yeah, that's good stuff. So there you have it, everybody. Another episode in the books for Perfect Album Side. Stay tuned for day 11 coming up tomorrow. And like I said, each and every day throughout the month of May. So thanks to Martin for coming on board today and giving his Perfect Album Side. Let us know what you think of side A of the AC/DC album or side A of the Sabotage album in the comments below. And also list your favorite Perfect Album Side here today. And visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. I just said that Twitter thing. I'm trying not to say the Twitter thing anymore.
No, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just irrelevant, right? Because it's like we don't use Twitter here, and Twitter's in such a weird place right now. I'm thinking, why even mention it? But it's hard to get out of the rhythm of saying that statement because I've been saying it for like 7 years. So I'll get there. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. From Martin Popoff, I am Pete Pardo. See you tomorrow morning. Take care.